in the process of the audit, you guys found some security holes in the original Ethereum virtual machine. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're in quite a unique situation in that most of the Ethereum virtual machines on the market offered by other networks, they're actually just forks of the original Ethereum code. So they're very much the same, almost, you know what I mean, in terms of the code. Telos, on the other hand, because it's built off the EOS.io code base, the Telos EVM is completely unique code. And so when the auditor goes through and checks all the different functionalities an EVM is supposed to perform, and it's comparing the outputs between Telos EVM and the original EVM, which is Ethereum,
right?
They came to a situation where they saw the output of Telos EVM was actually different. And so that's called differential fuzzing. I know it's getting a bit complicated there, but basically they're just comparing one to one and seeing if they have the same result. And because they realized there was a different result, then they dug into it more, and basically they realized there was a severe vulnerability. By finding this hole in the EVM code, it's basically affected the whole $1 trillion DeFi space.
All right, it's Crypto Blood here, and welcome to the EOS Detroit podcast. We have a local guest, Justin Giudici.
That's right.
Glad to have you here. He's from Telos, and we're going to be talking to him today about blockchain, about Telos, about EOS.io. I have a couple of rapid-fire questions for you at the end I think will be fun. Kind of tell the audience about yourself and how you got into blockchain. I always love hearing that story from people,
no, of course.
First-time interviewers. So,
my name's Justin. I'm the founder of Infinity Block. That's one of the block producers on Telos primarily. I think we run on a couple of different chains, but mainly Telos. But I actually got into crypto probably 2017. As the crypto prices were rising, and I was like, what is this thing?
Right.
How is everyone making ridiculous amounts of money from this?
Right.
And so it intrigued me. I wasn't originally intrigued by kind of the idea of digital money, so I didn't really understand that. I just thought, well, that's great. It's going from analog to digital. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more efficient.
Right.
But it's not until I dug a little bit deeper. I got into things like Steam, not really investing or anything, but just
utilizing it, right?
Exactly, yeah. Realizing you could post articles, you could get paid for it. There's a little economy built into this application, and it's sort of all automated. And I thought that's really cool. That could be the future way a business runs.
So did you have a technical background?
Yeah.
Prior to getting into the whole crypto space in 2017?
Yeah, definitely. I worked in web development primarily.
Sweet.
Building applications and that sort of thing. But yeah, it was sort of a little bit out of left field. I wasn't really particularly interested in finance or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I fell down that rabbit hole with things like Steam. Then, read a bit more about Bitcoin. I sort of thought Bitcoin was way slow, and I couldn't really see how that would scale or why people were so interested in it. Eventually, I've actually come around to Bitcoin, and as a store of value, it's really interesting.
Sure. So this is interesting. Your foray into cryptos wasn't into Bitcoin initially. Was it another coin, or was it through Steam?
I think it was more the interest that things like Steam actually brought.
Interesting. He's one of the first people I've met that didn't come in through Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also kind of one of those other people. I was a DPoS guy before, so I guess it's not that uncanny to me, but we're definitely in the minority there,
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Tell us about Infinity Block. I know that's your company. Kind of explain to us what you do, what blockchains you support, and all that good stuff. Interested to know.
Definitely. I mean, Infinity Block probably makes up. I know I said I'm from that. I'm also from Telos Foundation, of course. Infinity Block probably only makes up maybe 3% of my time. Literally nothing. Once you start running your nodes on one of these networks, it pretty much runs itself.
Mhm.
I usually have a technical contact who does all the administration,
Nice.
that sort of thing. So yeah, it's not too much of my time. Most of my time is definitely spent at the Telos Foundation, which obviously runs marketing and biz dev and PR for the Telos network blockchain.
Man, the new website, I love it. The new
Yeah.
Telos website, it looks so like presidential. So did you have your hand in the redesign, and kind of tell us about that whole process? It looks awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, yeah, I was involved, but we've gotten to the stage at the foundation where we're, putting people on specific roles
Mhm.
or specific projects. So we had a guy called Angus who was overseeing the website build, and we hired a designer and a developer. And, yeah, we gave them a lot of feedback on what we wanted to see. But yeah, we wanted to kind of build a website that is like the home of the Telos network. It has all the tools and features and explains how the network works, where it fits in the whole crypto sphere. So that's why there's like a lot of comparison tables and that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah,
That's cool, man. I really, again, the brand, I've watched it. I've been an early supporter of Telos, as you probably know. And just seeing the evolution of and growth of Telos is pretty neat to me. But before we get into what Telos is, many of the audience may not know fully about Telos and what it's all about, its strengths. Tell us a little bit about your opinion about the crypto markets in general today. I mean, we've got Bitcoin over $60,000, and did you ever imagine Bitcoin being at $60,000?
yeah, I sort of did, but
Okay.
but it's just the difference between imagining something and it actually happening
Right.
is always like quite drastic.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
the hopium, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, all of us, like, I think we all believe like Bitcoin will hit like 100,000,
Right.
will hit 1,000,000.
Yep.
But like,
To actually see it,
yeah,
like,
it's unbelievable.
yeah. How do you feel about the crypto space though? Like, you've got the Shiba coins, the NU,
Yeah.
Shiba, and Doge, and all of that. Like, how do you feel about the space in general? Do you think it's frothy, or do you think it's just part of the growth of a new industry, a new asset class?
To be honest, it's a bit of both. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it is.
It's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of frothiness, a lot of people buying into what we call shit coins.
Yep.
Just total coins based on nothing. That don't have any governance. Probably don't really have a reason to exist except for people to gamble on it, I
Mhm.
suppose. So you have that side of thing, but then you do have like we're entering in like sort of mass adoption where we have like DeFi AMMs where
Sure.
people are being able to trade really quickly and easily and earn revenue. I think that's very exciting, and it could be applied to real assets and real currencies and everything. We also have things like NFTs, which is an exciting space. Unique tokens that represent not only like digital art or cards, but could represent like ownership over a mobile phone or a car or anything.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting, and finally we have blockchains that can deliver these features or these things in a sort of consumer-friendly manner. So I'd say it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I'm more excited about the latter, as far as more of the smart contract blockchain aspect of the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Not the cryptocurrencies.
Oh, definitely.
So that's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. So, EOS.io. When I say that word, what do you think of? What comes to mind when you hear EOS.io?
Definitely the software, like the underlying software that supports blockchains like EOS, Telos, Wax, Theo, and others. I think it's a really beautiful concept that they Block One, who are the creators of this software, decided to build something that could be taken and used in multiple blockchains.
Yep.
And even private blockchains. I think that's the way things are sort of heading. And I suppose it's happened before with like database software and other things like that, where it gets widely adopted.
Right, right. Do you feel like EOS.IO and blockchains that use delegated proof of stake, is that a superior consensus model versus a proof of work or proof of stake? Like, how do you feel about the varying consensus models in the industry, and where do you see DPoS fitting in there?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. It's kind of personally, like I prefer DPoS because it allows fast transactions, like user-friendly experiences. Where the user isn't waiting for
Right.
a minute or 5 minutes or an hour. I think that's kind of ridiculous. But I think with any type of governance, it's really dependent on what you want to use it for. I think that's the key. And I think there's a lot of use cases where DPoS is kind of required, but there's other use cases such as Bitcoin where I think it's quite interesting and useful to have proof of work.
I agree with you. I'm of that same mindset. Like, there are different use cases for varying consensus models. I don't think there's one catch-all consensus model that will fit everything,
Yeah, and I mean, especially with like how the bridges have evolved. I mean, of course, I think we're going to go into the Telos EVM in a little bit here, but you're looking at Wax as an EVM now. EOS is trying to get an EVM. Of course, all the second layer protocols like Polygon and things like that, right? We're getting to a point where I remember, what was it, like 2 years ago, like an actual bridge that worked consistently was like a pipe dream at that point. And
Right.
to see how far really this industry has come in just such a short time is pretty amazing to me.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah. Are you watching what's going on with Eden and that whole process?
Yeah, from afar, to be honest, at Telos, we've probably turned a lot of our focus onto what's happening in the Ethereum ecosystem.
Okay.
But yeah, Eden I think is a very interesting experiment.
Only reason I asked is because I know Telos is very, one of the things is governance, right?
Yeah.
That's your selling point and what you're pitching to the audience and everything and developers. And I was just curious if you guys were looking at what was going on in the Eden on EOS
Yeah,
project.
Yeah, personally, I look at it as, everything in crypto is an experiment, but I definitely see that as one of the most innovative experiments in this space. And that's kind of important, and that's a good reason for crypto to exist, so we can experiment with new models.
Right.
And yeah, the process of going through these different groups where people are pushing forward their ideas, and then those groups are electing leaders who go up another tier, and then they do the same thing again until you get one person at the end. I like the idea and the concept of it, the fact that everyone is aligned to the same goals.
Right.
I think that's where we need to bring politics, as opposed to two-party politics as there is sort of in the US.
Yeah, no, totally. I think you're right on target with that. Adam and I participated in and thought it was a pretty neat experience, and just wanted to see what a person from Telos, you guys are governance heavy, what you thought about that. So that's pretty cool. Let's talk about Telos though.
Yeah.
$1 Telos, 90-cent Telos.
It's crazy. Yeah.
$1.12, I think I saw at one point. It's crazy.
Yeah,
From 2 cents.
2 cents. I think at one point,
maybe even 1 cent.
1.4 cents.
1.4 cent.
Yeah. It's crazy how far things can come.
I still think if the Shiba Inu coin can do a 20,000% return and not have any real value add to the ecosystem, I think we got a long way to go with a lot of these tokens, not just Telos, but the ones that are actually doing something, bringing and adding value. How do you feel about Telos at its current prices? Do you think it's undervalued, overvalued? I'm assuming, of course, not overvalued, but kind of.
This isn't financial advice.
No,
yeah, not financial advice, but if you look at Telos and the comparable coins, in terms of its speed and offering an Ethereum virtual machine, and the number of applications building on our network, it's definitely easy to kind of come to the assumption that it's definitely way undervalued. Like, coins like Solana's probably not a good example because it's not EVM, but Matic, if you look at the comparable charts, like Telos is actually way undervalued still.
I think so.
Of course, it's not financial advice. Like, there's various reasons people invest in these coins. Sometimes it's just like they like the sound of it or the story behind it. But yeah, Telos is at a stage where there's over 100 projects building on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got an EVM coming. It's probably, it looks to be the most performant Ethereum virtual machine on the market. And obviously with the EVM or building in Solidity, which is EVM is based on, is actually, the most popular
Yes.
smart contract standard. So that really puts Telos in a really great place, I think.
Yeah, and I would totally agree. I mean, even if you look at things like how Telos has been able to attract more block producers over time rather than having kind of that attrition that EOS has had for various reasons, right? Like, even that is really, in my opinion, a testament that the competition to actually run the network is increasing over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's been an interesting part of Telos is that new block producers have been able to come along and enter the Telos ecosystem and then compete really readily and get actually a place in the top 21.
Yeah. Are you guys bringing back Telos Works?
It's actually still going. It's just, it's sort of died a little bit in terms of popularity or just focus because we've been so focused on EVM. We've seen like an uptick of, worker proposals coming into the system more recently, especially with the price rise.
Right.
But yeah, the work system has been an interesting experiment in itself. Like a lot of positives, but some things that we've realized, could probably be improved on.
Of course. I mean, it's forever going to be improved. It's software, right? You never have a final version of any software. But, okay, I was just wondering about that. So let's talk more about this whole Telos EVM. That's been like the hot topic inside the community. You guys are past, tell us what milestone you're at currently in that rollout of the Telos EVM.
Yeah, I think we're about to very soon announce the audit's been totally completed. That means like not only has it been audited, but we've gone through and fixed all the issues. It's actually like the audit itself only took probably a couple of weeks. But then that process of going through each thing one by one, fixing them, going back to the auditors, getting them to approve, that's quite lengthy.
In the process of the audit, you guys found some security holes in the original Ethereum virtual machine. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're in quite a unique situation in that most of the Ethereum virtual machines on the market offered by other networks, they're actually just forks of the original Ethereum code. So they're very much the same, almost, you know what I mean, in terms of the code. But Telos, on the other hand, because it's built off the EOS.io code base, the Telos EVM is completely unique code. And so when the auditor goes through and checks all the different functionalities an EVM is supposed to perform, and it's comparing the outputs between Telos EVM and the original EVM, which is Ethereum.
Right.
They came to a situation where they saw the output of Telos EVM was actually different. And so that's called differential fuzzing. I know it's getting a bit complicated there, but basically they're just comparing one to one and seeing if they have the same result. And because they realized there was a different result, then they dug into it more, and basically they realized there was a severe vulnerability there, which is obviously a big deal in that there's billions of dollars of DeFi based on Ethereum, but not just Ethereum, but also other EVM-based chains like Binance Smart Chain, Matic, etc. So by finding this hole in the EVM code, it's basically affected the whole $1 trillion DeFi space.
Wow. No, that's major, man. That is absolutely exciting. So I'm glad you guys were a part of history, basically, on
Oh
that
yeah.
in that sense. I actually want to ask you this question for non-technical individuals that may be watching. Explain what the whole use case is for an EVM and what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Telos building an EVM.
Yeah. So an EVM is like sort of an ecosystem in itself, where developers can deploy their decentralized applications using Ethereum code, basically. So as I was saying before, it's like very popular already with developers. Developers can basically deploy things like Uniswap and PancakeSwap, maybe with their own different branding. They can deploy NFT marketplaces, that were previously on Ethereum, and they can do that and get the speed and affordability of Telos, which makes it like basically the whole experience of interacting with Ethereum, only Telos. It allows that to be accepted by a much bigger audience, especially when you consider like Ethereum gas fees, which can range into the $50 or more,
More.
to buy an NFT or a coin.
Mm-hmm.
This is really like the Telos EVM experience is very similar, but instant transactions and someone in a third world country can actually get involved.
Cool.
Yeah, and you guys are first to market with that. Telos is within the EOS space, anyways, EOS.io space. So that's really impressive.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. What improvements do you see that are needed going forward here with Telos in general? What are you guys looking at as far as a roadmap? What's coming up with Telos?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll have like a whole a plethora of different applications that are announcing in the coming weeks. So that'll be something important, but obviously scaling to meet the demands of those applications will be important. So deploying more RPC servers and that sort of thing. So there'll be a gradual rollout. We'll also be doing a second version of the RPC server. I think they're calling it RPC 2.0 or something.
Okay.
So that'll help us scale and reach more applications as well. But yeah, it's really a focus on partnerships and onboarding. Building out things like hackathons and incentive programs that bring more applications in. I think those types of things will be our focus going forward, as well as sort of maybe refining some of the harder edges around, having the integration of two different technologies in EOS.io and Ethereum, on the one network, just bridging that experience into one kind of easy wallet.
That's perfect, man. I'm very excited. I've been for couple years now with Telos, and it's just crazy seeing the growth. And it's cool to have a guy local to talk about Telos with. Last thought. So, what do you want to see, or what are you doing in the next coming quarter with Telos personally?
I do a lot of different roles at the foundation. The foundation doesn't actually have like a CEO at the moment, but myself and George Vernon at the foundation, we sort of fill that role, without the need for authority. Of course, like Telos is a decentralized blockchain, so the authority aspect is limited, and that's kind of good in a lot of ways.
Yep.
So, with that, there's still a coordination role, like between all the different areas of the foundation, because we have things like marketing and PR, and we also need to coordinate with the Telos core developers, and you need to have someone or a few people who are able to communicate between those different lines and have that knowledge of all those different areas. So I'll continue to work in that role, but also I'll be contributing in terms of business development and other things. We've got some key partnerships coming up that I'm involved in.
Nice. Well, there you go. There you guys have it. Justin G here live in the studio. I got a quick rapid fire I want to do now just to get you. Maybe we have some bloopers here, Adam. So in like 3 words or less. When I say this person, what comes to mind? All right, you ready?
Sure.
All right, Dan Limmer.
Nerd. He's a smart guy.
Okay.
But you know, I think like Dan's a guy like any guy or girl or whatever. You know, they have strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
He's definitely on the technical side. He's a genius, but you know, yeah.
Bounces around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He bounces around a lot.
Okay. All right. Douglas Horn.
I mean, again, he's like complicated as a character. No, Douglas is an awesome guy, but it's like, you know, having a guy on your team in a sport, you know, who sometimes roughs up the opposition.
Yep.
You know, like you love having them on your team, but if you're in the opposition, you hate them.
I've seen Douglas on Twitter going ham on a couple of people. Few times. Yes, I understand.
I love Douglas.
Bitcoin.
But, Bitcoin, it's digital gold. Yeah,
I agree. See, I agree with him. I
That
like
that branding has served
good.
Bitcoin very well.
It has.
Everybody thinks
Self-fulfilling
that.
prophecy now.
We need to get that sort of.
A lot of people don't though. Still, they think it's like money. I mean, like money to spend.
Yeah.
Why would you spend Bitcoin?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at a certain stage, like the growth in price will probably plateau.
Yeah,
And then it might be worthy of spending. At that
Agreed.
point. I don't know. Yeah.
but I don't think we're in the spend Bitcoin phase
Probably
yet,
not.
ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it hasn't been popular, has it, to spend? Like, people
No.
generally want to hodl it.
Right. We'll see how El Salvador does. This is going to be an interesting experiment. See how they use Bitcoin and if they even use it or whatever. Okay, last one. Central bank digital dollars or currencies. What do you think about those?
I mean, the first word that comes to mind is like interesting. Like, I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's definitely moving us forward, so that's going to be a positive.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be hard for them to compete, though. Like, you know, with currencies that, you know, have a limited inflation or
Right.
new circulation, it's going to be a struggle, you know, because no one wants to hold something that is just losing value all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, inflation last month on the U.S. dollar, I think, was like 5.4% or
Yeah, it
something.
was.
Like, that's insane. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
even if you look at like
And that's
EOS, which I think has the highest inflation right now, like what, 3%? Like, that's still significantly
and that's what they
lower.
Report. We know that the government
Yeah.
is probably closer to 8% or something like that. You know, they say they try to keep it at 2%. It's never 2%. It hasn't been 2% for a long time. So yeah, we don't have to worry about that when you're dealing with decentralized currencies. That the code is law in some sense, right?
Oh,
Inflation
definitely.
is either there or not, or you can see it or whatever. So that's okay. That's cool, man. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 2, EOS Detroit podcast. Guest here, Telos, Justin, G.
thank you for having me. It's been great.
All right, guys, we're out of here.